Hey guys, it's Tony, and we're back on the bench. And this evening, we're going to be doing a little service here on Zebco. So we're talking about a 202. All right, it's mechanically it's fine. It's just a little squeaky, a little bit of noise in there. We're going to show you how to take this reel apart, how to service it. We're going to start real simply here with taking off this top cap. These reels are kind of what I call, put simply, an American classic. Okay, they've been around a long time. Zebco making these push button reels. The 202 is kind of like a simplified version of their models. Basically, we're going to use a little bit of simple green here just to clean out the inside of this. This is pretty typical here. You get a lot of dirt and debris and stuff under here. You want to clean all that out really well. Just a little mild degreaser on that, and it'll clean up real nicely. There we go. Okay, so these reels, they're really designed, for the beginners in mind, so to speak. But you know what? I still use push button reels even to this very day, just because of their simplicity. They're great, for casting small lures and baits and stuff like that. Okay, now this reel is made of a plastic housing in opposed to a metal one. Okay, so that's one thing to note. The 202s, they were always pretty much a little more friendly on the price point, simply because they were made more of plastic parts. And so that's one thing that you want to bear in mind if you're in the market for one. You always get what you pay for. But the 202s are also nice just because they're light. If you're working a bank and you don't want to lug a bunch of weight around with you, this is a good way to go. Okay, so as you can see, we've got a good portion of the reel already taken apart here. So we've got this nut here, this handle nut that needs to come off, and they've given you options here, for where the holes are here, where you can change the handle position. So that's kind of helpful in some ways. So we're going to take that handle nut off next, as soon as we figure out what the size is. Some of these handle nuts are kind of oddball sizes sometimes. This happens to be a 3/8 though. So we're going to gently take that off. Yeah, this reel, shows quite a bit of dirt and stuff in here, and so we're just kind of cleaning that off as we go with the shop towel here. Okay, and then we've got this top nut here, which I believe is a little smaller. Yeah, so that's a 5/16. So we're just using some basic tools here, obviously, to do this service. Okay, we're going to take this piece off next. Okay, we've got a little snap ring in here that has to come out. And we're just going to gently pry that out with a screwdriver, like that. Okay, pretty simple design here. Once again, just quite a bit of dirt and old grease, sand and whatnot. So we're just going to clean as we go, get all that out of there. Okay, you can see we've got the same deal going on here. We're just going to clean all that out. And there's our main drive line in gear. It just fell out. Okay, now you also want to make note of the orientation of how this piece is right here. Okay, it's got this little notch here, and it rests down in that little groove. Okay, you just don't want to lose track of how that goes. And we're going to clean out all this old old grease here real quick. Take a little more simple green to this. But yeah, I say American classic, simply because, most of us grew up, using these kinds of reels in one capacity or another, for fishing. Anyone that's gone fishing before is more than likely pretty familiar with these reels. Okay. And, if properly taken care of, they'll last a very long time, actually. But in many situations, what ends up happening is they get used for a few years, and then they get put on a shelf in a garage, and they sit and they sit and they sit and they sit. And, a lot of them never get picked up again. Either, because someone decided that they didn't really enjoy fishing that much, or perhaps they just moved on, to other equipment and decided not to use their push button anymore, And then there are some, very few, that, still use them, so many years later. So we're just using a Q-tip here. There's quite a bit of sand buildup in here, and so we really want to kind of get that out of there. And we're just using the help of the Q-tips here just to clean out these areas, just like so. Okay, got some old grease here. We're going to take that off right now. And we'll just use a toothbrush just to clean those teeth out. A little bit of 4-0 steel wool here. Okay, and then same deal here, old grease. Just want to clean that out. Nice clean parts. Okay. So we're going to deploy a little bit of blue grease now to the equation with the help of a little brush, a little bit of blue grease, and we're just going to grease up this main drive shaft. This is riding in plastic, so one might say it's not essential to do that. No, it's not, but you know what? It's a moving part, and you don't want any rust buildup to happen in here, which is a very common problem with these. Okay, so you want to make sure that you set that piece back in position like so. Slide your gear back in there. So that's part of your anti-reverse right there. And then we're just going to go in with the blue grease here on these teeth real quick. Just like so. Okay, and then we've got our pinion shaft and gear. We're going to do the same deal here. A little bit of blue grease here. And then on the gear itself. Get a little bit here on that spring as well, just because it's metal on metal. And we're going to slide that back in position just like so. Should look like that. Okay. And then this is the part where you kind of have to hold this from underneath while you put these other parts back in place. Okay. Got your snap ring. And I usually use the help of a pair of needle nose to get that back on. Like that. Okay. And then right here, you just want to do a quick inspection, make sure that you don't have any sand or dirt buildup in there. A little bit of oil on that lever right there. And set this back in position like so. Another thing that you also have to do is you have to be able to work this lever a certain way too, I find, in order to so a lot of the time what I find you got to do is you kind of have to work this from a certain angle, and then it should set down in place like so. I'm going to spin this top nut back on like that. So as you can see, it's a relatively simple reel to work on. All right, there's no real magic to it. And that's another thing that I like about these reels is that, you know, you can work on them relatively easily, and it's usually not too much of a hassle as long as all the parts are there, nothing's broken. A little bit of oil here doesn't hurt anything. Now, once again, they've given us an option of these different holes here, it looks like. Actually, now that I'm looking at it more carefully, that's not the case. Okay, so the center one is there. I'm not exactly sure what these other holes are for, but they're not designed, I don't think, to go around that. I mean, you could do it, but it would be loose and it wouldn't be right. So it's a little deceiving, I guess, but that's okay. Okay, gently put that back on, and we'll put our top cap back in place here. And yeah, quite a bit better. It's all working real nicely. So there you have it. That is the Zebco Model 202, and it's all ready to go. So thanks again for watching. This is Tony with Back on the Bench. If you liked the video, please do give it a thumbs up. If you'd like to see more, please make sure you do subscribe and hit the notification button. And that way it'll give you all the updates as to when there are new videos being posted. And I do intend to have quite a few more coming out shortly, so make sure you stay tuned for those, and we'll see you next time.